Hi everybody, I'm all the way up in Scotland for some work, but while I'm here I couldn't resist exploring a little bit of the Caledonian forests. It's the perfect habitat for chanterelle mushrooms and it's the right time of year as well, being a little bit later into summer. It's July as I'm filming this. Chanterelles are well known in the foraging scene. They've got a great reputation and very much used in top-end restaurants as well. They are packed full of flavour. But it's a wild mushroom that I've never actually foraged myself. Well known though it is, I just haven't seen it around where I live back in northeast Wales. So maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. But this is the perfect habitat for it. Plenty of pine, plenty of spruce as well. And I'm happy to say it is here in these woods. So let's dive into it. Before we get into these beauties though, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon if you want to get notifications about more wild food videos like this. And if you're someone who loves the idea of foraging wild food for free, I'm guessing you are if you've clicked on this video, then we actually have a whole online foraging course. It's called Your Wild Food Year and it takes you through all the best wild foods to be found in the UK from January all the way through to December. The first part of the course is free, so if you want to find out more about that, you can sign up to it via the links below. Now, back to chanterelles. So where are you going to find them? Well, this is a great place to start. This is a conifer forest. There's a lot of needles on the ground, and this particular woodland is dominated by Sitka spruce and Scots pine, so they like those acidic soils. But they can also be found under birch, oak and beech trees. They also like damper woodland as well, so with the summer we've had where it's been very wet, that's probably why I'm seeing a lot of it about right now. It also explains why they're more common towards the north and west of Britain. This particular little gem is showing us something really important. Chanterelles do like to grow amongst moss. So looking on mossy woodland floors is certainly a good thing to do and a good way to find exactly what you're looking for. Oops, broke that one a bit. Still good for the pot though. Chanterelles also like undisturbed soils as well. And once you've found your patch, they can be fairly reliable in coming up year after year. The next question is when to find them. Well, they're a summer to autumn mushroom with quite a long season, everywhere from June to November. It's July now, and as I said, they're in abundance here up in Scotland. But they tend to come out a little later in the season further south, which is counterintuitive, but that's how it is with the chanterelle. There we go, definitely channeling my inner hobbit here. Very nice condition, lovely stuff. Okay, let's get into how to really recognise the chanterelle so you can find it for yourself when you're out in the woods. The first thing that strikes me is the colour of a golden egg yolk, and sometimes they are called golden chanterelle, and they really do stand out on the woodland floor. Look at that colour there, beautiful. I just need to cut into myself there because I've actually introduced some confusion. The golden chanterelle is the name of another species of fungi, Cantharellus luticens. Now I might have said that incorrectly, my Latin is terrible, but the point is it's important to refer back to the Latin name of the fungi you're talking about, just to avoid any confusion. It's not a mistake you want to make when you're mushroom foraging. Sometimes they're a little bit covered by kind of moss and leaf litter. They don't always stand out from the crowd, but once you get your eye in with some of the smaller ones, you can find some of the bigger ones kind of hiding there under the moss, leaf litter and kind of pine needles there, and brush them aside and you'll find a real golden treasure, so worth hunting down. There's some other features as well that's worth knowing. The flesh inside the mushroom is white. That's really important, nice and clean and white when you cut it open on the inside. That is important when it comes to distinguishing it from the false chanterelle, which we'll get to in a bit. Next, let's engage our sense of smell, and there is a fruity smell to that. Yeah, some people describe it as being like apricot. I don't know whether the orange colour is adding a bit to that kind of story there, but I am getting that really. I don't know whether someone's put the apricot picture in my mind, but it's certainly a little bit fruity, not exactly like you might expect a mushroom to smell, like one you buy in a supermarket, the field mushrooms. So look for that apricot-like smell. Here's another nice little patch here, one looking in particularly good condition. lovely stuff. Let's get that out. Oh yes, very nice. Next, have a look at the shape of the cap. When they're mature like this, they're quite irregular. They're not a nice, even rounded cap, as you might expect from, the classic kind of toadstool shape that you know from all kinds of kids' drawings. They're quite irregular in their shape. Have a look at that there. And then next, on the underside, we have the gills there. And the gills are, quite fine, quite crowded, and the gills are like wrinkles as well. Some of them split into two as they go towards the edge of the cap there. And what's key as well is that the gills are decurrent. And what that means is that the gills don't finish at the point where the cap meets the top of the stem. They continue on a little bit into the stem and along the length of it. That's called a decurrent, and that's a really important identifying feature for our chanterelle. Also, the stem is not particularly thin and weedy. It's got a good fair thickness to it in comparison to the size of the cap. So you don't want a very thin stem, but equally it's not very thick like you get with something like a bolete. Looks like someone's already had a go at this one, or maybe it's been knocked over. But that's in quite nice condition, isn't it? As you can see, no sign of aging or kind of browning off there. That's pretty good. That's one for the basket. Have a look at these two mushrooms here. We've got one of a good size here and then a much smaller one here. I'm finding a lot more of the smaller ones today rather than these larger ones. This one here is more like the size I would like to get, and that's really what you should be looking for to get them at their absolute best. It's a good size, but it hasn't started to turn yet. It hasn't gone over. It's still in good condition. I suspect I'm not finding quite as many of these large ones today because this is quite a highly used woodland, quite well visited, a lot of dog walkers and probably quite a few foragers as well. As I said, the chanterelle is well known. So perhaps that's where the bigger ones have gone, or perhaps I'm slightly early in the season for this particular site. But that's the ideal size of what we're after. A moment ago I mentioned the false chanterelle, and it's a lookalike species that we need to look closer at. And it was interesting because whilst doing the research for this video, I found some disagreement between whether the false chanterelle was edible or mildly poisonous. Some say that it's safe to eat, while others say that it can cause unpleasant gastrointestinal symptoms or even hallucinations in some people. First of all, this fungi likes a similar habitat to the chanterelles we're after. It likes to be in needle litter in coniferous woodland. Also, I mentioned earlier that the flesh of our true chanterelle is white inside, but with the false chanterelle that's not the case. The flesh is more kind of orangey yellow, and there's a much more earthy, mushroomy smell with it. There's no fruitiness at all. The cap of our false chanterelle is typically more rounded when it's mature, less wavy around the margin. And that margin as well is enrolled to the underside there. It's more kind of orangey in colour as opposed to yellow with our true chanterelles. And the overall feel of the false chanterelle is more floppy and less firm to the touch than the chanterelles we're after. There are other species of chanterelle which you should be aware of as well. I'm going to list them just across the screen over here. And these ones are all edible as well, so it's again not going to be a fatal mistake, but they're rare in the UK, so we don't want to be foraging them due to sustainability. But the point here is that if anything doesn't feel right about the picture, if the chanterelle you're looking at isn't ticking all the boxes for the golden chanterelle, then leave it aside. It could be one of these others. As the old phrase goes, if in doubt, leave it out. So now we've come to the really important part, how to use them in the kitchen. As you'd expect, the flavour is excellent. There's a reason why they're a favourite. But also the texture holds on chanterelles as well after cooking. So you get a nice bite in any meal that you make with them. Also, they just look great, don't they, in the meal? It's certainly going to be a talking point around the dinner table. I never got mine home though. I just stir-fried mine with some onion, peppers, some noodles and a dash of soy sauce that I had around with me, and used them for a tasty woodland lunch. But they go very well with eggs too, so sticking them in an omelette would definitely be a good idea. What I would say is though, don't undercook your chanterelles. There's a tendency for some people to maybe think they need to be delicate with them, but they've got quite a high water content, so you want to make sure you drive that out in cooking so you get a more intense, stronger flavour with your chanterelle. Another tip for these guys as well is that they don't take to drying very well, unlike some mushrooms like kind of the oyster mushroom or the parasol. So use these ones fresh, that would be my recommendation. So there you have it, the Chanterelle. I'm really happy with the haul I've got here. I'm going to take these home and do something tasty with them. But if you've got a recipe that really works for chanterelles, do let us know in the comments below, and also let me know if I missed anything out about identifying these mushrooms. But do get out there and look for them yourself. They are well worth the hunt. And if you really want to go down that wild food rabbit hole, then as I said, we've got an online course called Your Wild Food Year, and the first part is free, so you can check that out via the link below. We're going to have more videos like this, whoops, as we find them, and I'm just going to rescue those chanterelles, and I'll see you soon. Happy foraging.